Don't hit that squirrel. I know, that was good. It was close. It was close.
Now, he hasn't come out quite yet, and I'm just sneaking in his garage, but what the heck is going on in here? Look at this. This place looks insane.
So when I first got my driver's license, I was driving my parents' 1978 Plymouth Volare with the slant six.
Oh my goodness! Oh, was that the Volare? And that was Riccardi Montalban,
yeah,
with
Corinthian
the Corinthian leather.
Well, we didn't have the rich Corinthian leather.
Oh no!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I'm going to be filming a very special version of your EV journey. This is the series that I really want to hear from you, consumers of EVs. And today I got a really special guy to say, yes, Dave, I'll be on your channel. Tom Moloughney from InsideEVs, from State of Charge YouTube channel. He's also someone I've known for a lot of years. Kyle and I met him years ago. We'll tell the story. But what's great about Tom is he can share his perspectives because he's been driving EVs for over 13 years. So I'm excited. I'm on my way down to New Jersey to his house. I'm in West Nyack, New York, charging up. Unfortunately, it's on a 150, but that's okay. Next stop is going to be Tom's house. And again, welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave. Let's get into it, folks. All right, so I just was taking a look at the front of Tom's house. Beautiful. And look at this driveway again, just amazing. But I think I'm gonna knock on the door here and let's see if he's home here. I need someone to explain this. Nobody better to explain what's going on here than Tom. Hey,
Who is it?
Tom.
Dave!
What's going on, man?
As if I'm surprised. How are you, Dave?
Oh, it's great to see you.
Good to see you,
Good
man.
to see you. So listen, I hope you don't mind. I was walking around in here and I'm like, what in the heck? The other day, some guy said to me, Dave, I'm thinking about getting an EV and it's coming in a little while. Can you recommend a charger? And I said, you should go to the State of Charge. I mean, I knew you were into it, but this is unbelievable. Tell me Tom, we have so much to catch up on, but tell me what is going on in here?
So, for a while I've been doing charging station reviews, and they've gotten really popular. It seems like that's what my followers want to hear from me more, charging station reviews. I actually do comprehensive reviews. You'll see some people on YouTube doing charging station reviews. They plug it in. They're like, yeah, it's got an 18-foot cord, and look, it works.
I remember watching years ago, you had a charger out and you were dipping it in frozen water and letting it freeze overnight. Yeah. I was like, this guy knows what he's doing.
I try to do pretty comprehensive reviews. So I've realized that seems to be my wheelhouse. That's what my followers want me to do, is really focus on reviewing electric vehicle charging equipment. So I've just now, you're the first person to see this.
Oh,
I've just upgraded my garage. Rather than having just a regular garage with some outlets and stuff, I completely renovated the garage. I partnered with a company called Garage Living. They do like garage makeovers, and we've stepped it up. So now I have the ability to put the charging stations anywhere I want. I can have them all stored on this wall like this rather than in boxes and everything.
Right.
And then this is the main wall where I do my reviews.
Okay.
I have my permanently mounted and installed Tesla wall connector and my Ford Charge Station Pro for the Lightning. And then I have my outlets here where I'll put the charging stations here, and this is where I'll do my reviews. So
I see.
My followers are going to see a lot of charging station reviews coming up now, because I've got about 12 or 15 of them that companies just send them to me now. When they have a new charger, I just come home and there's boxes sitting in front of my garage because they want me to review them.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to be my wheelhouse moving forward. So you're the first person to take a look at the new State of Charge.
Well, this is great. And how you actually got to where you're doing this now is the reason that I drove all the way out from Connecticut to New Jersey. And it didn't take that long. So you know what? I like this place, Tom. You may find me out here more often than you wish for. But
you're always welcome.
What I'd love to do is, hey, come on out here for a second. I hope you didn't mind. I was taking some shots of your your car before.
No problem.
Both cars.
Both trucks.
Both trucks. I'm sorry. Yes. But what I thought we would do is pick one of these vehicles and let's go for a ride, because what I really want to hear about is how did you go from driving whatever it was when you were 16, you got your first car, to this, right? I mean, look at this. This is commitment right here. And I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours, but Tom, first of all, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day today to do this. I'm really excited to hear your EV journey. And before we jump in the car, any thoughts or any comments?
Well, it's a long journey, so I hope you've got a lot of memory in that your camera there.
Is this going to be a 2-episode? This is Tom. If anybody deserves a 2-episoder, it's Tom Moloughney. So I'll tell you what, we'll see what happens. But no, we really appreciate this.
Well, this should be fun. I love telling my story. It's a unique story how I got into EVs and how I just kind of transitioned from being a restaurateur to, renovating my garage and doing charging station
Absolutely.
reviews. So let's hop in one of them. You can almost pick them. I drive them both, so just let me know which one you want to drive in.
I think I'd rather go in the F-150 Lightning today.
Good choice.
If that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
I know that the Rivian is what, you just got that a week ago,
yeah,
right?
I've had this about 8 days, and I've had this a little bit more than 2 months.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't spent as much time in the F-150 Lightning, so let's go for a ride in that one.
Absolutely. It might even be better to film in because the suspension is smoother.
Right.
The Rivian is more strung like a sports car, so you feel the bumps. This just glides over the bumps, so we'll have a nice smooth recording.
That's awesome. All right, so Tom, listen, I'm excited about learning. I mean, I know, when you know someone and, hey, how's it going and all that. But after this, we're going to know. I mean, you're not going to know anything about me, but I'm going to know a lot about you. So as we're leaving your beautiful house here and you're driving, did you lock it? Because I don't want to, and did you lock the Rivian? Because, I mean, this neighborhood looks like it could be very dangerous, Tom. You know, it's like
people
you
breaking
got
into
bears
houses all the
and
time.
Coyotes and deer. And,
You have to worry more about the bear than you do about somebody breaking into your house.
I would imagine.
And plus, my wife's home, so I think
well, there you
she'll
go.
be okay.
But look, we've been talking nothing else up to this point other than electric vehicle charging, which is great, and electric vehicles. But I want to learn a little bit more about Tom Moloughney, the man, the guy, the legend, right? Like where did you grow up, and what did you like to do when you were a kid, and were you a car guy? Like what? I met you when you owned a restaurant. So all I know is I like you, I like your videos, I like what you're doing, but I don't really know much about you. So the mic is all yours, my friend.
All right, well, we'll go back to the beginning. So I was born and raised in Jersey City, right across the Hudson from New York City. I could see, the Statue of Liberty practically from my house.
Okay.
And so I was born in the late 60s. And
was that a tough town back then?
So, no, actually, it was a pretty good place to live back then.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
It started to change, and that's why we moved west. We moved out to Fairfield in 1978.
Right.
But the reason why I'm talking about that was because, if you remember, what happened in the early 70s with gas.
Oh, yeah, I remember in the early 70s, we had the gas crisis with the green, yellow, red flags.
The odd and even number of license plates. So basically, OPEC formed, and they basically said, the U.S. isn't just going to get our oil anymore on their terms. We're going to dictate the terms, and so what we're going to do now is we're going to hold back a bunch of the oil. We're going to let you feel some pain for a while.
That was totally political.
Oh, 100%.
And everyone was like, "Hey, we're running out of oil. What are we going to do?" That was complete garbage.
It was the oil producing and exporting countries, OPEC, wanted to show the U.S. that they were going to be the bosses with oil from now on.
Right.
We weren't gonna, because we used to go and, there's some truth to this. We would go and basically pillage countries for their oil, these Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah.
And they stood up for themselves, but the pendulum swung too much in that direction.
Yeah.
So anyway, the reason why I'm mentioning this is one of my neighbors during this gas crisis, like some people did, converted an old Chevy, like from the mid 60s, to electric.
No way.
Yeah, the thing probably only went about 20 miles. I don't even remember the details, but all I do is remember walking by his house and him saying to me, like, "Hey, Tommy," because everybody knew everybody back then.
Right.
Like now, if somebody called your kid to come in his garage, you'd go down there and want to beat the guy up,
Right.
But back then, it was like, neighbors knew each other and so forth. So, so he's like, "Hey, you want to see my car? I converted it to electric. I'm not waiting on those gas lines. I'm not buying their oil, and all this." So, and it took me for a
Was
ride.
this guy's name Elon?
No, I think Elon was like probably a teenager back in South Africa at
Right,
the time.
exactly.
But he was probably dreaming up PayPal.
Right.
But so I remember driving around the block, and I remember how quiet it was, and how all I could hear was the car squeaking as we went over bumps.
Right.
And thinking like how cool this was. So anyway, that was my first foray into electric vehicles. Now, you know, I really didn't think about it much after that, but all I remembered was it was cool, right?
Right.
I could hear people talking on the sidewalk as we drove down the streets, and you couldn't do that with my mom's 73 Pinto, which we had at the time. So, you know, so that was my first experience with electric vehicles. Now, fast forward years later, I always was kind of interested in alternative fuel vehicles. I always thought, like, you know, at some point we're going to transition to something. I figured it would be hydrogen because that's what we were told, that, you know, hydrogen was the next fuel. You know, George Bush was, you know, we're going to build a hydrogen economy and everything. So I kind of figured that might be the way to go. But I was open to anything. And I'm still open to, quite honestly, if somebody could prove to me that something's better than electric.
Hey, listen, we may be in a transition phase now.
It could be.
Who knows?
I don't believe that, but I'm open to anything.
Right.
You know? So
sure.
In any event, so I started doing research, alternative fuel vehicles, and you know, there was nothing available at the time. I mean, back then, GM had made the EV1, and then the California Air Resource Board changed the rules and allowed the companies to take all their vehicles back and crush them. And I was like, okay, so
what a beautiful vehicle that was, though, aesthetically, right?
It really was, and it was an amazing vehicle.
It was an amazing vehicle.
I've talked to many people that leased them that were part of the program, and you know, that everybody loved them.
Yeah.
So you know, but I was like, okay, well, I guess like that's it for electric cars. You know, like, you know, we're not going to be making them.
Right.
And so I was looking for all different types of alternative fuel vehicles. And then, quite honestly, and I don't talk about this too much, this part of the equation, if we call it, but I'll share it with you and your followers. Then 9/11 happened. Right. And so let me shut this. Somehow I put the heated seats on. I'm getting hot. So I owned a restaurant at the time in Montclair, New Jersey. I could see the towers from the hill right behind my restaurant. So we actually, me and my employees, watched them fall. Right. And I don't want to get too political, but the bottom line is...
Yeah, and by the way, I was there that day.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
No, I was in 3 World Financial Center, right across the street. So I was there when they fell as well, which is there's a lot of things that can change in a person's life. Yeah. And I understand it's an unimaginable thing to go through. So, and that impacted you how then?
So, you know, I mean, in many ways. First of all, I didn't sleep well for about 6 months, but you know, I don't really want to get into that. Like watching it, knowing that I had friends in the buildings that fell. Of course. But then what I think came out of it overall was, listen, you can't change my mind and my beliefs that whole operation was funded with Saudi oil money. Okay, so without getting too political, but that is what happened there. And for me, it was kind of a watershed moment that I kind of said, like, I don't want to buy oil anymore. Like, but what do I do? Like, everything's made of oil. Like, you know, plastics are made with oil and all that stuff. Yeah. So, you know, you can't not buy oil. But, you know, for my personal transportation, is there an alternative fuel that I can use where I don't have to buy? I can know that not a penny of my dollars goes to any foreign entity that maybe hates us. And you know,
when back in 2001, what were you doing then? Were you in the restaurant business? Was that you? Okay.
Yeah, I owned my restaurant. As I said, we watched the towers fall. Me and my employees went outside and watched them fall.
Oh, wow.
We could see them fall from Montclair, New Jersey, on the hill where my restaurant was. Oh. It was only about 10 miles west, directly west.
Oh, so that's a different place than where I went, to Nauna's. Is that a different place?
No, that's where it was.
That's where it was?
If you would have went on that street that my restaurant was, the hill, and went up to the next street, like only 100 feet from the restaurant, you see the New York City skyline.
I didn't realize that. It's that close.
Yep. Okay. It's only 10 miles west of New York City.
Wow.
So you know, so then I started doing some research online, like alternative fuel vehicles. What could I drive that doesn't burn gas? I came across some crazy ideas. There was some early car companies out there that were going to make electric vehicles, you know, that they never materialized to anything.
Right.
And there was even this like home ethanol thing that you could buy, and you could make your own ethanol out of like sugar. You had to buy like pallets of sugar.
Oh, man.
And I actually thought about buying that thing and putting it in my driveway right where you saw the trucks parked, and make my own fuel.
You'd have the FBI showing up at your house saying, what's this guy? You'd be on some list, right? You know, do not fly list or whatever.
Thing was funny. It looked like an outhouse. It was a big plastic thing that made it was going to make ethanol. So anyway, so that didn't work out.
Right.
So then I was doing research online about electric cars. I came across this application. Now I think it's 2007 or early 2008. Came across this application. Do you want to drive an electric car? So I was like, yeah, this looks cool. I'd like to drive an electric car. It was a BMW program, and they were going to make electric Mini Coopers, and they were going to lease them to people for a year to be part of a pilot test program. And I happen to live in one of the areas. You had to either live in New York or New Jersey or California. Right. They were doing an East Coast program and a West Coast program. So I lived in one of the areas. I was like, this is cool, let me apply. So yes, click yes, I want to drive this. Okay, there's an application process. It's going to take about 45 minutes to fill out. I was like, really? And I'm at work, and you know, I'm the boss, so I could stay in my office for 45 minutes if I want to.
Right.
So I fill out the application, right? And we get to a point where all of a sudden the screen goes black, and then a big red icon comes in and says, oops, you know, there's a problem occurred. You need to go back and refill out the application. Now, I'd been doing it for like 45 minutes.
Oh, no.
So, and now there's two icons, and one says, you know, forget it, I'm out of here. And the other one says, okay, go back, I'll do it again.
Right.
And I'm looking at those two buttons, and you talk about like moments in your life that are defining moments. You don't realize it at the time when a defining moment happens. You realize it afterwards.
Right.
And I'm looking at those two buttons on the computer screen, and I'm like, I spent 40 minutes doing this. Like, do I go back and do it again, or do I just say, you know what, the hell with this? You know, like, so I said, you know what, I really would like to drive an electric car. So I click, oh, okay, I'll do it again. And boom, the screen comes up. It goes, congratulations, your application has been accepted. That was just a trick. This program is probably going to have problems, and we don't want to include
that was
anyone.
Deliberate?
It was deliberate. We don't want to include anyone that doesn't have patience.
That's really interesting.
So that was so cool.
That's
you know
brilliant.
what I mean?
I like
exactly.
that.
So they filtered out people that weren't willing to have patience, because they knew it was an experimental car. It was probably going to break down, which it did.
Right.
Everyone that had a Mini E at the time,
yeah,
you know, knew their local tow truck driver. so in any event, we I
just a quick question.
Go ahead.
When did BMW buy Mini? Do you remember, like, was it years before?
It was years before that.
Okay, so
when they came out with the latest generation of Mini Coopers, you know, the ones like back in the late 90s, I think, or whatever. In the 90s is when BMW bought Mini. They're the ones so that brought the brand back.
The brand back.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and the funny thing is, I like how BMW did it under the Mini brand, because if it was a disaster,
they could just blame it on Mini.
It wouldn't be BMW.
That's beautiful.
You know? So they chose.
Look at this cop over here.
Yeah, he's
come on,
taking
dude.
radar.
He's like using laser.
So then maybe 8 or 9 months later, because I filled it out like in, I think, early 2008. 8 or 9 months later, I get an email. Congratulations. I don't hear anything. For months, I figured out, you know, that I wasn't selected. I'm not in the program. 8 or 9 months later, I get an email that says, hey, congratulations, you've been selected. You know, do you still want to go through with this? Now, it was a trial lease program. It wasn't free. It was expensive as hell.
Really?
To lease the Mini Cooper for 1 year is $850 a month.
Wow.
At the time, you could lease a regular Mini Cooper for like $1,000 down and $199 a month.
I remember that. Yeah.
So like I'm paying $850 a month rather than $199 a month for 1 year. So that was another way that they wanted people that really wanted to do this.
Yes.
Not somebody who just was going to lease it and then never drive it. You know.
Right.
So I talked to my wife, and I was like, this is really expensive.
And it was a 12-month, 1 year.
It was a 1 year program which they then later extended to another year because the program was going well.
I see.
But originally you only signed on for 12 months. So So I went through with it. I got the car, and I remember the first day driving back to the restaurant, because it was the middle of the day when I had to pick it up. I picked up the Mini dealership. I remember driving back to the restaurant to work, and just I couldn't get. You ever like get a grin on your face and you can't make it go away?
Yeah.
Like my face started to hurt from the grin,
right?
But I couldn't stop grinning,
right?
Because it was just so cool driving this little electric car.
Where did you pick it up? Was that at BMW North America headquarters?
No,
or at a dealership?
At a dealership, yeah. You know, these dealership laws in this country would be illegal for me to pick up a vehicle from a manufacturer.
I see, gotcha.
So yeah, it was actually Morristown Mini, and then I drove it to Montclair. So you know, I remember driving up Route 287 and just with this grin on my face that was like, this is so cool,
right,
you know?
Right.
And it was cool. And then, you know, shortly after having it just a couple of months, I was like, okay, this is it. Like this, like, okay, now I know it's electric. That's where we're going. And I then put a solar array on my house, which you may have seen.
I didn't see that.
It was right on the front of the house. I don't know how you missed it.
I don't know.
The driveway.
I was too busy looking at the R1T and the F-150 Lightning.
So yeah,
you got a lot going on at that house. You know, I got to wear sunglasses there, and it's not even sunny out. So
I put a 9 kW solar array on my house because I said, okay, I'm driving electric from now on.
Is it a Tesla system?
No. Tesla didn't even have solar.
Oh, so this is a long time.
This was 2009.
Oh,
it was
wow.
right after I got the Mini Cooper.
Okay.
So you know, I mean, the Roadster was out. The Model S wasn't even out at the time yet.
Sure.
You know, and so I mean, there were no options to get an electric car back then. You spent $110,000, got a Roadster, or you were lucky enough to be in this the area where you could lease a Mini Cooper like I did.
Right.
So you know, I mean, when I was driving on the roads back then, there were no electric cars in New Jersey. None. There were either like home conversions that people made. A few people had Tesla Roadsters, but that was it.
Right.
And because of that, I started to get a lot of attention. Well, I started a blog, and people were following my blog about living with an electric car. I used to have electric car meets at my restaurant, the Mini Cooper. All the people that were in the Mini Cooper program in New Jersey, I used to invite. They used to come fill up the whole parking lot with these Mini Coopers.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that was really cool. But I started to get a lot of attention, press attention. I was in all the local newspapers, even national newspapers. I was in the Wall Street Journal.
Really?
And yeah, in the Washington Post. I think the Detroit Free Press.
Wow.
You know, I was in German magazines. I was in Der Spiegel about, you know, this guy in New Jersey living with an electric car. So that was really cool. And it was good because I was able to communicate to people that say, hey, look, electric cars are pretty cool. And yeah, you can live with them. And, you know, at the time, the Mini Cooper only had about 100-mile range. So it didn't go very far, and there was no public infrastructure, nothing.
So how did you charge that thing?
So the one thing that was cool, BMW, they came and installed a level 2 charging station at your house.
Okay.
And here's another thing that was cool. They said, if you want more of them, let us know. We'll give you as many as you want. So I took
as many of the chargers, or as many of the cars?
The chargers.
The chargers.
Yeah. So and don't forget, back then they were really expensive because this was before the J1772 standard was even out. Mini had a proprietary connector.
Yeah.
It was this round connector made by ODU, and they had to have Clipper Creek made like a special EVSE charging station for them. So these things cost like $2,000 each, but BMW gave you...
Why would they say you can have as many as you want?
Because let's say you wanted to install one at your mom's house that was 50 or 60 or 100 miles away. They wanted you to be able to get around with your Mini Cooper because there were no public charging stations.
Okay, so you could have as many as you want, but it wouldn't make sense to put more than one unless you had 2 cars at one location. Now you can put at different locations.
So that's what I did.
Okay,
I was like, well, give me like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
And they were like, really? Are you going to use them? And I was like, yeah. So I installed one at my restaurant. I installed one at my parents' house. Like, I made a little my own private charging network.
Right. You had a tether.
Right. So I guess that's what started me with this charging station addiction that I have. So that was really cool. And then, so I installed one at my restaurant, outside the restaurant, because I would plug in, there was a little driveway behind the restaurant. And what I noticed was all the other people in the Mini E program were coming to the restaurant and asking me if they could plug in. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then I posted it on Facebook.
Meanwhile, they're ordering dinner.
Yeah, so they're stuck there for like an hour or two.
So it's driving business.
Right. So then I was like, wow, you know, I think people are going to put charging stations in their their businesses because they'll get more revenue. I mean, it's kind of something that people were like, duh, now, but like back then there were none. So I was like, that's going to help drive people wanting to put your chargers on their public properties because it's going to attract people to the properties.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it was literally, I installed the first public charging station in the state of New Jersey.
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, that was that.
And you just fell into it.
Yeah.
And to think that you could have not hit that button, right?
That's what I'm saying. That started me down this path.
Isn't that
like
funny?
You could have went left, you could have went right.
Yeah.
But I went right, and now my entire life is changed.
Yeah.
Because I hit.
Sure.
You know, oh yeah, I'll go do it again.
That's a great story. So now I remember you and I were talking years ago, and there was this concept of being an electronaut. What was that? Because I just pictured you wearing this spacesuit and a helmet and the tubes coming out. What was that program?
Right. So that was a BMW. Love to make names up. With the Mini E, they called the Mini E leasees that I was pioneers, because we kind of were at the time, and sure. So they called it the Mini.
And pioneers, they get all the arrows.
They get all the arrows, right? That's why when we got the arrows, trust me, so many times the car just shut off when I was driving it. It had a lot of issues. The Mini E,
right?
But so they, as I told you, they had a 1-year lease program. Then it was going well, so they said, okay, BMW's gonna make electric cars. We need to get a pilot program going for BMW. So they decided they were gonna convert their 1 Series to a fully electric car called the Active E. So then they told all the Mini E people, okay, if you want to continue on this electric journey, we'll extend your lease for another year, because that's when the Active E is going to be ready, and we'll put you right into an Active E. You can lease that. But if you didn't want to continue on, like you would at 1 year you ended your Mini E lease. So I said, yeah, I want to continue on.
Yeah.
And so I extended my lease for another year, and then a year later the Active E program started, and they called the Active E leasees the Electronauts. So they called the Mini E, we were pioneers, but now we were Electronauts.
And now by this time, had you started to get to know some of the people at BMW corporate and develop relationships with maybe some of the engineers? And was there a feedback loop that you were giving them, or how did you get your experiences back to to Mini to start with? How did that all happen?
So I'm a bit of a data geek, and I kept records of every single time I plugged in the Mini E. I had a clipboard in the car, and I would write down the temperature it was outside,
right?
How many miles I had driven on that charge, how many remaining miles the vehicle is estimating.
Okay.
And just a bunch of little data, the total miles on the car. So I had, at that point, I had I think 1,800 entries in my logs.
Wow. And
BMW, I had maintained a close relationship with BMW, maybe closer than most of the Mini E people, because I was offering them feedback. I was sending emails to people, just unsolicited feedback about, I wish it would do this, you should do this. Right. So they started communicating regularly with me, the engineers, the people from Munich, not as much US, but all the people from Munich, even board of directors of BMW wrote me letters saying, we want to thank you for your participation. You've been an invaluable help to us. I was in, there's 2 pages on just me in BMW's corporate report in 2013 or something like that.
They found their guy.
Cool.
They found their guy.
So, and then they used to take me to different events. They used to ask me, would you speak we're having a luncheon, and would you talk about electrification?
Right.
And I would say, yeah, sure. I'll go talk on behalf of it. No guarantees of what I would say. They didn't say you have to say it was good or bad. I was just a customer that liked the program, liked electrification, and thinks that it's the future. So they started including me in a lot of different events, which was really cool. And then what they did when the Active E came out, they made me the first customer to get the Active E. They did a big ceremony where the president of CEO of BMW handed me the keys, shook my hand. I got to make a speech and all this stuff. So the cool thing about it is I was and am the first retail customer in BMW history to take possession of an all-electric BMW.
Wow.
And that'll never change, which is pretty cool.
Right. That is cool. That is cool. And so now, how long did the program for the Active E, was that also a lease, or was that so BMW, they wanted the cars back at the end. It was a closed-end lease. It wasn't an option to buy it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And was that, how long did that last for? You may have said, I apologize, but what?
I didn't say. So that lasted for 2 years. And again, what happened was, you know, BMW was coming out with the i3. It was going to be the first electric vehicle that they offered for sale.
Right.
So what all the components in the Active E, the motor, the controllers, all the electronics were what was eventually going to be in the Mini E.
Right.
So they said, you know what, this is a great field trial. We'll make 500 of these.
By the way, I like this neighborhood, Tom. this is really, what town are we in here?
We're in Chester. We're
Chester?
in my town. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, there's some nice areas of Chester.
Yeah, I would say. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem.
This is like the CEO of BMW's house right over here. I don't know what's going on.
But so yeah, it lasted for 2 years, the Active E lease, and they said the same thing they did with the Mini E. If you want to continue your lease right up until the i3 is available, you can extend your lease. If your i3 is not ready at the end of this program, you could just go month to month until the i3 is available. Which is what I then said. Okay, I'll do that. So for 2 years, I had the Active E, and that was a 1 Series electric vehicle that was converted, you know, to fully electric.
Did that use the same plug from a charging standpoint as the Mini?
No, then the J1772 standard was out.
Oh, okay.
So that had the regular, the connector that everybody's using now, everybody except Tesla uses now here in North America, the J1772. So then we had to get new charging stations installed. And that was also part of the program. BMW installed a new charging station. It was an AeroVironment charger.
But they had to do 5 for you.
No, they only gave you 1.
Oh, they only gave you 1? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Mini E, it was just like...
They're like, wait, this guy, Tom?
Take as many as you want.
You can lease this car, but you only get 1 charging station.
I might have ruined that for everybody when I was like, yeah, give me 5. Like, 5?
That's funny. That's funny. And now, what was the range on the Active E versus the Mini? About similar? Or?
Yeah, it was basically the same. The Mini didn't have an actual, like, EPA rated range. I think at the time, like, they didn't have a formula for electric cars. So there was no official range rating for the Mini E. All I know is it went about 100 miles. And the Active E, when the Active E came out, they did have like range certification, and it was EPA certified at 94 miles per charge.
Okay.
So it was basically about the same. I still think the Mini E went a little bit further, but you know, my data showed that it went a little bit further.
Was the Mini E front or rear wheel drive?
It was front wheel drive.
And what about the Active E?
The Active E was rear wheel drive.
It was rear wheel drive. Okay. And the motor was obviously over the rear axle. So
it took up some of the trunk space. In the Active E. You know, it was a conversion. You know, but it was a fun car to drive. People that had them loved them. They wanted to buy them. But it wasn't. As much as it was fun to drive and I really liked it, it wouldn't have lasted. You know, it was engineered to last for a couple of years, you know, because it was a pilot program. It wasn't made to last long term.
Right. Okay, so now the i3 comes out, and by the I owned, that's how you and I met, was because I had an i3, and you held an event at your restaurant, which you were explaining to me. You were holding events for the Mini E guys, the Active E guys. It was common. So when this guy Dave Connor shows up at your restaurant with some young kid named Kyle, you're like, I think we spent. First of all, you were. I was like, Kyle, we got to go see this guy Tom Moloughney. He's holding an event. We got an invitation to his restaurant. We got to go. Kyle's like, what? In New Jersey? And I said, Kyle, free pizza. He goes, all right, I'm in, because Kyle, he loves pizza. So, but we ended up speaking to you maybe about 7 minutes, because you were, honestly, you were like a little bit of a I mean, you still are, don't get me wrong, but at that, I remember at that event, you were, you know, a lot of people wanted to talk to you and all of that, but that's when I can tell you that Kyle and I started to realize, because Kyle was very active in the Mini community. He had a countryman. The countryman's name was Kowalski. You know, he blew the engine. There's a whole long store. I mean, you know, this was a crazy time. But the fact is, there was a strong community with the Mini community.
There still is.
And back then, Kyle actually ran the Mini Countryman's Owners Lounge on Facebook. So he started to see that there was an evolving, electric community as well.
Well, I ran the Mini E Facebook group. I was one of the people.
So he probably knew of you, but I think that was a turning point for him when we went to that event, because we were talking to all these people that had i3s. Yeah. And I was like, wow, there's more than just us.
Yeah.
What year was the first i3? Was it 24? Was it
14?
14. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So after the ActiveE program was over, I had an order in for an i3. We got them kind of first before the public did. The people that were in the i3 program.
Right.
And I actually got the first range extender i3 in the U.S.
Okay.
I didn't get the first i3 because the BEVs came in like a week earlier or something. So somebody got the BEV first, but I got the first range extended version. And I love the i3. Don't get me wrong, but I have to be honest, I was disappointed in the range, because at the time, it's one of the things. I had a lot of conversations with BMW, with their engineers, when we were in the i3 program and the Mini E program, and I was leaning hard on them on coming in with a range that was over 100 miles, and I was telling them, it's a premium brand, BMW. It has to have more than 100-mile range. At the time, don't forget, you had the Leaf out that had like 84 miles of range, and the Ford Focus Electric was out with like 87, and I was like, you've got to be.
I remember when the C-Max plug-in hybrid came out and it had the number 100 on there. I was like, wow. I know it wasn't a pure EV, but it's just, that was a time when 100-mile range was a big deal.
Right? And I really leaned on them to make the i3 have a 100-mile range. It was going to be expensive. Let's face it. It was a BMW carbon fiber, all the materials they used. So I was doing everything I could to say, you have to, and at the time they were listening to me in a lot of regards. So but it came out, the fully electric version had an 81-mile EPA range rating, and I was like, I can't live with. I'm going backwards. I had a 100-mile Mini, a 94-mile ActiveE. Now I'm going to go to 81 miles. So I got the range extended version. I didn't want to, but what I ended up
with the 1.9 gallon gas tank, tunable to 2.4, which I'm sure you did.
Believe it or not, I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't code it because I didn't use it much.
Oh, okay.
When I got rid of it, well, actually it got totaled in an accident 2 years after I had it. A woman ran a red light and T-boned me, like going 45 miles an hour, and totaled it. But when I totaled it, it had 73,000 miles, and only, I don't remember exactly, about 4,000 miles was on the range extender.
Right.
So I was at like 96%.
So you were using the range extender for range anxiety in a pinch.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Just to get that last 6 miles home. So I didn't need the extra 0.6 gallon.
Unlike when Kyle and Alyssa moved to Colorado. We drove that i3 out from North Carolina to Colorado. That little range extender.
Just kept pulling in, getting gas, pulling in, getting gas.
Right.
I mean, it would fill up quickly because it was only a gallon and a half. I actually did a video on that, and I was able to pull. I said, how long does it take to recharge to refuel the i3? The
i3, right.
And it was less than 2 minutes. I started the timer when I was on the highway pulling off to the gas station. I filled up, and then I stopped the timer when I was back on the highway. I did it on 87 in New York.
That's funny.
And it was like 1 minute and 56 seconds. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, you have to stop frequently, but it's so quick. It's not an inconvenience.
Look, that i3 that I had, I loved that car, and it was great. And then after you totaled, unfortunately your car was totaled. Hopefully you were okay. I mean, did you then did they have the S out by then or not yet?
So they announced they were going to have it out, but it was still 6 months from being available.
Okay.
So at the time, I was deciding, okay, what do I want to do? Now there's other electric vehicles out that are good. Like the Model 3 was just launching. Right. So I was like, okay.
Well, you had the Nero, you had the Kona.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, do I continue with this BMW journey? Do I get another i3? It's kind of, it's the i3S was like $56,000. So I'm like, do I really get, for the same price, I can get a Model 3? So now I'm thinking, what do I do? What do I get? I love the i3. I love how they drive. So the funny thing is, this was in the summer of 2017. And then in September 2017, I'm in Frankfurt doing a TED talk in front of the Frankfurt Auto Show and everything.
That's
so
cool.
I get to talk to all the BMW executives. So they're like, Tom, we heard you had an accident. We're so sorry to hear that. We're glad you're okay. So when are you getting your next i3? And I'm like, well, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to get one because of, the cost. I said, it's a terrible value proposition.
Yeah.
You have to admit it. And they're like, well, we know it's expensive, but it's very unique. They said Tom Moloughney has to be in an i3. You have to get an i3.
Yeah.
So I'm like, listen, the price is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I love the car, but don't get me wrong, it's a terrible value proposition. So they're like, Tom, we have to tell you, we have already earmarked the first i3S BEV. Because now it had the bigger battery pack, and it went further. It went over like 120 miles.
Yeah.
So they're like, we have it on the line with your name on it. It's going to be built like in a month. So I'm like, it's got to make sense for me.
Yeah.
So they're like, look, we'll figure out a way to talk to your local dealer. We'll use whatever is available. That's fair. Like returning BMW customer incentives. We're gonna, when we lease it, we're gonna have a factory to dealer incentive. We'll be able to bundle all this stuff in. You still have the federal tax credit to put in your lease.
Right.
We have to make this work for you.
Because a Model 3, if you're looking for range or functionality, a Model 3 or an i3, for everything.
Yeah, the i3S was faster and better, but it's still not.
It's such a crazy little niche box at the time when it was out in 14. Okay, it made sense, right?
Yeah.
Because wow, you're going to afford a Model S, right? But and at least you can get into an electric vehicle with the range extender and be out there playing,
you can do whatever you need
and doing
to do.
whatever you need to do. But now in 2017, you're gonna
2018 now
56 grand.
Yeah.
What were the Model 3s back then in the 30s?
Yeah, so it was a bad value proposition, and they knew that. So we came back, I talked to my local dealer, I was like, look, BMW supposedly has my name on the first i3S to roll off of the first one coming to North America to roll off the assembly line. So we sat down and we got returning BMW loyalty credit, the federal tax, rolled it in, and we got it to a number that was acceptable for me, and it was still, I still paid more than what I should for what it was worth, but I still love the i3, and to this day I love it. My wife absolutely misses the driving experience. How it was so easy, because I told you she lives in New York, she works in New York City. Driving that thing around
they're
the
great.
city,
I commuted into Manhattan all the way down to
to this day she still says, God, I miss the i3. That was such a great commuter car to drive around in.
But be honest, how many times did you shut the front door without the rear door, right? That was the most frustrating thing. Like that was such a stupid design, but
really.
But and I'm a big guy. I fit great in that car.
It had a lot of room.
It had a lot of room, and the thing was
the dedicated platform with the low.
Also, you could smoke like cars off the line.
Off the line, that thing had great
before they
response.
actually remember that with the Rex, they had the problem with the engine mounts. And they sort of turned the torque down a little bit. But before they did that, that thing was, I think am I right in saying that was one of the quickest BMWs off the line?
From 0 to 30, it was one of the quickest. There was a rumor going around for a while that it was the quickest.
I started that rumor,
but that was wrong. it was one of the quickest.
Right, it was one of the.
There was a few that was.
You could surprise people with that. You could surprise people.
But then it really, after 40, 50 miles an hour, it really.
Oh no, I know.
But the S actually continued to pull longer.
Oh, I see.
And at highway speeds, when you stepped on it, like 60, 70 miles an hour, it gave you a much better response than the non-S versions.
It's just to go off track. I really feel like BMW missed such a huge opportunity, and you were there telling them what to do.
They did,
and they missed such an opportunity because look, when you think about the i8, okay, that's a halo car, very cool, BMW, whatever, with the mini engine in it and all that, but the i3 was the only effort. It's only now, Tom,
I know,
that BMW's just getting back into it, because out in San Diego, I just drove the iX, and that's a pretty nice vehicle, and I didn't drive the i4 yet, but to me that looks so plain to me. It just looks like a 4 Series that I want something that's a little different, but it's I feel like they missed 5 years.
They did, and that's a whole nother video if you want to do it. We could talk about it for an hour. I actually happen to know some of the back of the scenes workings that went on, but to really put it in a quick nutshell, they were going full steam into electrification. There were some management changes. they decided they were going to hold back for another full generation of vehicles, and then they were going to go into full electrification.
Right.
So that's what happened. So what happened was they basically put fully electric on pause for 4 years. So, and that's why we're getting all of them now. And you know, it's in you know, big time, big company politics. And you know, it's within every manufacturer, and I've been there through this journey, as you know now, for a long time.
Right.
And so back 6, 7, 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to talk to the movers and shakers within all the major companies, and in every company there was a battle between how quickly do we go into electrification. We know electrification is going to happen, but how much resources do we put in now?
There's disadvantages to being first mover.
Absolutely.
Now, nobody was first mover except Tesla,
Yeah.
let's be honest. But being second mover, there were disadvantages to that. And waiting is, you have advantages, the better technology, lower price points in any business, right? You
learn from
more
others'
knowledge,
mistakes.
right? Absolutely.
You know how much BMW poured into BMW with the whole carbon fiber and all that research? Billions of dollars. So I understand why they became a little gun shy, because they poured all this money into the i3 and i8.
And not only did they pour the money into the car, but the factory too.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like this whole, we're so green and look at how we built this factory. Anyway, that's a little off topic. I want to get back to you. So you have the IS now.
Yeah.
Sort of a little bit of a, hey Tom, you're going to buy this IS. I mean, that's brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
To, you know,
but I leased it.
Oh,
That was
okay,
the
so
first
you-
time I
so-
had bought the original i3 Rex that I totaled.
Oh, I see.
But I leased this one because I was like, I know in 2 years there's going to be so many more EVs that I want.
Did BMW give you the full $7,500 down as cap cost reduction?
I forget exactly what was bundled in. I think
They probably did, because that drove the lease price down.
That drove the lease
huge
price down. I got
right.
returning customer.
Yeah,
Then they
right.
also had some cash on the hood for the factory to dealer rebates.
Gotcha.
It was still, like I said, more expensive than it should be for
Yeah.
that car, but
Right.
it was worth it. And I wanted another i3.
Yeah.
I love the i3.
Okay, so now you're driving an i3, but you're seeing what Tesla's doing, right? And you can't ignore. You can't ignore that. So, I know you had a Model 3. How did you go from the BMW S, the i3S, to a Model 3? Did you replace or did you add?
So I added, but I'll tell you how I got to the Model 3. I actually was going to buy or lease a Kia Niro or a Hyundai Kona.
Right.
This was right when they were coming out in the spring of 2019, or the spring of 2018. Spring of 2019, and both the vehicles were just coming out into the U.S. But I couldn't get them. Like 2 or 3 months went on, and they weren't shipping them to New Jersey. They were shipping them to other states.
Guess what?
And
I got 2 of them.
Where did you get them from? What state? Were you in
Connecticut.
New York, Connecticut?
Yeah.
So I could have gone to Connecticut, but you know what? And I won't use the P word, it angered me that I had to do that the manufacturers weren't.
They were only selling them in 13 states.
So you know what?
And you could not get them.
Right.
And,
so that angered me.
Yeah,
and I said,
understand.
you know what? I'm not giving them my money.
Right.
And I said, you know what? Tesla has been all in. They're dragging the whole industry into this. I should buy a Tesla just to support the company.
Right.
So that's what I did. Instead of, after 2 months of trying to get either a Niro or a Kona, I went and ordered a 2019 Model 3
And by the way,
long range.
not a mistake.
No, not at all.
Not a mistake.
I loved it.
You know,
and I knew I would love it.
See, I had, when I bought my Kona, the first Kona, which, by the way, I sold to some guy in Guatemala. You know those calls you get, like you're at dinner, and your cell phone rings, and you're with your wife, and she says, "Don't answer it." And I'm like, but this could be the call, right? This could be the call. I'm like, honey, I gotta answer. It's from Guatemala. She goes, definitely don't answer it. It was this guy from Guatemala who ended up buying my
so
Kona,
bizarre.
and I shipped it to him. Yeah, he was a Columbia PhD grad. He had gone to school here in New York. Long story short, my Kona ended up in Guatemala, and I think Kyle. We've kept in touch with this guy. He's a great guy. I think Kyle's going to go down and visit.
He should.
Yeah, because they figure out the state of what's the state of electric
infrastructure,
infrastructure, and this guy knows it. So, but that Kona was a great car. It really was. But it wasn't a Model 3.
No, it wasn't.
You know, I mean, let's face it. So now you got the i3.
Right. The lease is still going on for another 8 months that I had. And I have a Model 3.
Right. And so the Model 3, was that a performance or just a regular
dual motor all-wheel drive?
Okay, dual motor.
It was a long range.
Long range. Okay, so yeah, because back then you're good. The rear wheel drives were a super value.
Yeah, the standard range.
Yeah, the standard range. Yeah, they were a great value.
And that would, quite honestly, that would have been fine for me. Don't forget, up to that point, I had lived what, 7, 8 years with 100-mile EVs, just fine. You know, so I was thinking like the short range would be fine for me, but I wanted all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
For here in northern New Jersey, you know, I get a lot of snow up here. I go to Vermont frequently. My in-laws live in Vermont.
Yep.
So, you know.
And by the way, the Kona, that thing front-wheel drive, it would just spin the tires. Yeah. Like it wasn't a great car in the snow, or even in the wet.
It was like the Mini E with the front-wheel drive and all that torque. It had 200 horsepower.
I mean,
the thing was hilarious.
It was powerful. That car. So now, I want to understand, because I know that you are a big figure at InsideEVs, one of the editors at InsideEVs.
Senior editor, yeah.
Senior editors, and I watch your podcast, obviously, every Friday at, 9:30. It's a great show. But how did you get involved with sort of just branching off and starting to do, and I want to come back to how you got to your F-150 and the Rivian, but I'm curious, like, when did this whole episode of getting involved with InsideEVs and sort of your now what you're doing as well, how did that evolve?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. So as I mentioned earlier, when I got the Mini E, I started a blog, and I started blogging about living with an electric car.
Right.
And my blog got really popular. Like, for me, at least at the time, I'm watching, you know, every day I'm getting hundreds of views, you know, which maybe isn't that popular for a blog, but for me it was cool.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing, you know, with analytics, you could see people all around the world are reading my story, what it's like to live in an electric car. I'm getting all these comments that are people saying, you know, this is fantastic, I want to drive an electric car. So that encouraged me to keep writing.
Right.
And what happened was my blog got pretty popular, and people started to notice it. People in like online forums and websites, and I even started getting people that editors from major publications, and you know, I'm not saying names, but you know, the major car publications out there,
right?
They would reach out to me and say, look, you seem to know a lot about electric cars. We're going to start writing articles. Would you do a guest article for us, and would you proofread our articles to make sure we don't say something that's wrong?
Kilowatt versus kilowatt
we
hour.
don't understand this whole kilowatt stuff and everything.
Right.
So I actually started proofreading articles for some of the major publications out there that everybody knows,
right?
But I never got any credit for. I didn't want any credit for. I did it for free, you know. I didn't even pay me, but I did it just for fun.
In like Forbes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I've written for a lot of different news outlets out there,
right.
And so what happened was, it kind of organically happened, Dave, where people from different news outlets would email me and say, hey, you seem to have a good grasp on the electric vehicle industry. Would you like to write a guest article? So I started writing for this, Green Car Reports, plugincars.com. Before even InsideEVs even started, I knew the original owner of that. As a matter of fact, when he started InsideEVs, you know, he asked me originally if I wanted to be part of the formation of the company and like own it, you know, but I owned a restaurant. I didn't have time to do that.
Is that part of Motor One?
Well, now it is. The Motorsport Network that owns Motor One, and it's bought InsideEVs from the original founder. The guy's name was Jay Cole.
Okay.
And they bought it from Jay, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. But I had been writing for Jay all the time, and I went to all the auto shows.
Yeah.
So I would send him pictures, live updates from the auto shows. You know, he didn't have the funds to send people, because it was a little startup InsideEVs at the time.
Yeah.
So I've been basically writing articles for him from day one, and it just organically worked out that, you know, I just started writing more and more. And I mean, I'm not one of their daily writers. I'm more of a feature writer, and I'm a, you know, senior editor there. So that just kind of happened, you know, as we went along. But how did I go full time into this? So, you know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I was started to spend so much time on this, you know, blogging, writing, making guest appearances. I was taking time away from my job of running a restaurant that I owned for 28 years.
Right.
And I got to a point where I said, you know what, I like what I'm doing so much, I want to do this for a living. So I talked to my wife and I said, look, I'm really thinking about going full time into electric vehicle writing, blogging, whatever. And I told her, I said, look, I'd like to sell the restaurant and if I do this full time, I think I could make money, but I have no guarantee at that point.
Right.
And luckily, I have a wonderful, fantastic wife, Meredith. She backed me. She said, if that's what you want to do, I have faith that you can succeed in anything you want to.
That's great.
So go for it.
Right.
So I actually sold the restaurant, and then I went full time into electric vehicle. I started a consulting company. Actually, I did consulting for some major OEMs, some infrastructure companies, and then I continued to write full time at that point to get a steady income.
I see.
And that's how that happened, where I went into that. And then a couple of years ago, now that everybody wants to watch video, I said I have to start making videos.
Yeah.
And so I started the YouTube channel State of Charge that really focuses on electric vehicle charging, because honestly, I think that's going to be the biggest impediment. When somebody wants to get their first electric vehicle, the biggest question is going to be, how do I charge it? They know how to drive it. They know how to do everything else, but how do I fuel it? So
listen, Kyle the other day, he tweeted out, the cars are fine. It's all about the infrastructure.
Yeah, no, and it's true.
And that sums it up.
And so my hope is that with my YouTube channel, it's as educational as it is entertaining. It's got to be entertaining or people won't watch it.
Yeah.
But I want to focus on education. I want my channel to appeal more to the newbie, the person that's never had an electric vehicle, than the electric vehicle enthusiast that knows everything about EVs.
Right.
I'm hoping my content helps new people better understand how to charge their car, how this all works, because I think that will serve the industry, where I'll be a known commodity that offers advice, which charger to buy, how to charge the car, how to properly care for your battery. And I think that's going to be my lane moving forward.
No, I agree with that. And so when you talk about how to charge your vehicle, you're not just talking about like what's in your garage, how to charge J1772, level 2, AC. You're also talking DC, right? And so that to me right now is a very big it's a very big deal to be able to educate people, because you go to a mobile gas station, you put gas in your car, it just works. Right?
Everybody
There's
knows how
so
to do
many
it.
variables that go into these charging stations, and a lot of people
levels.
they point fingers at the charging stations. Meanwhile, it's the car that's only asking for 77 kilowatts in the case of a Kona, and then But anyway, I won't get into that. But so your Tesla. When did you get rid of your Tesla, and how did you get into the F-150? I understand what you said earlier about putting in an order for both. Yeah. But what was the transition away from the Tesla? And I have a question for you. Do you miss the Tesla? Now you got to be honest though. So you're a pure CCS guy now.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the funny thing. So I told you I bought 2019, but then the 2021s came out, and Tesla added the heat pump and made some change in it. So I sold my 19 and got a 21. I got one of the first ones. Okay. So I have to make sure we go through the entire journey.
But wait,
here,
was
Dave.
there that much of a difference?
There wasn't that much of a difference.
Hey, by the way, another day, and maybe offline or online, what the heck does a heat pump even do? Everyone's, oh, it's got a heat pump. They're only selling heat pump cars in Canada. You need a heat pump. Like,
it basically is more efficient, efficient way to heat.
Does that really?
It does make a difference. I noticed it.
Do you need it?
Well, it depends. You don't need it, but what do you need air conditioning in a car?
Yes. Yes.
Don't tell me every car you've ever owned had air conditioning. How about your first car?
It did not have air conditioning.
And you're still alive.
It was a 1966 Mustang.
And he's still alive, so he doesn't need air conditioning. And you probably love that car.
I did love that car.
See, wrong. So,
but wait, now at my age, I need air conditioning.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, in that same vein,
I get it.
Somebody that lives in a northern state,
I get it,
where the heat pump might add 20 miles of driving range, says I need a heat pump.
Yeah, I get it. Okay,
so
all right.
Not everybody needs a heat pump though. Certainly, if you live in a southern state in Florida or something, you don't need a heat pump.
Right.
But if you live in a cold weather area,
I'm sorry to go off on the heat pump thing. Can I just say that's an insane house right there? I mean, like,
there's some insane houses.
Can we just go back there and say, can we hang out with you?
I mean, if we park too long in front of the car, the house, the police will come. So you know,
let's not do that.
Yeah, no.
Let's not do that.
It's funny, on this same street, I used to shoot some videos with my my i3.
Yeah.
So I had the tripod set up, and I had the i3 driving back and forth of it. Within 5 minutes, police showed up.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, neighbor called up. They said someone's got a camera and they're recording in front of their house.
Oh,
so
man.
that's what you get here.
Oh boy. So all right, so you got the 2021.
Yes, I got the 2021
Performance, or you did
same thing,
long range
dual motor,
again?
same thing. So I got that in December of 2020. So I got it right before, it was one of the first ones that came out, and I had that until 2 weeks ago. And then 2 weeks ago,
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I sold it to buy the Rivian.
How did you sell it? Privately?
Yeah, I put it on Auto Trader, and a dealer actually bought it from Pennsylvania, drove here and bought it. Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, I really didn't want to deal with the private. You know, I've done that with cars before. It's such a hassle.
Oh,
People coming to your house and test driving it, and you know.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I love this whole Carvana thing and Vroom thing, and they give you top dollar. It's so boring. It's so easy.
I want it boring.
I like the deal.
I like the guy came over.
Yeah.
The check was cut.
Yeah.
We made the deal over the phone. He's like, I'm going to test drive it. If there's anything wrong, I'm going to leave. I said, there's going to be nothing wrong. So he came, he checked it out, drove it. It's like, okay, it's right. Here's your car. Sign these papers. Leave.
And did you have any problems with either of your Teslas?
So I had some problems. Yeah, the charge port on this latest one. Well, first of all, when I got the second one, the body panels were terrible. I mean, I have a video of the trunk wouldn't even close, the hatch. It would hit on one side and bounce. So
that's all right. We can keep going.
It would hit and bounce. So I took delivery of it, because that's the way it works. You don't say, no, I'm not going to take it, because then you lose your car.
Right.
Like, you take delivery and then you immediately make a service appointment, and they fixed everything. There was a door off, misaligned terribly, and the hatch wouldn't even close. So but other than that, my the charge port stopped opening at one point. How
did you get it open if it didn't open? You just screwdriver?
So no, well, yeah, it would open if the drawer was unlocked and you wedged it and
you wedged it. You could pop it.
Yeah, it would pop it, but it wouldn't, and then it wouldn't close. So then I had to like force it close. So I basically didn't drive it very much until they came over to fix it, and they fixed it in my driveway.
Yeah.
I also had a terrible wind noise in the driver's door. I mean, it sounded like the window was open.
Yeah.
And they came and fixed that.
My 100D that I just sold had that in the passenger window, and that's the reason I sold it. No, I'm kidding. It's like, maybe it was, but
you almost buy and sell more cars than Kyle does, for crying out loud.
Oh yeah, Kyle, he's an amateur.
Yeah,
he's an amateur.
It's crazy. Every week you've got a new car.
Well, you know, I will tell you that it's been a unique opportunity in the market. The combination of the tax credits plus the valuations of the cars. Yeah. If you're smart, you know, you could do it. It's no longer. I think the market's changed, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, I made money on my mouth.
Oh, listen,
I sold it for more than what I paid for it.
I'm embarrassed to say
and then
how
the
much
dealer
money
sold it for $4,000 more.
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, I have not lost money. I've made money on all these transactions. This whole journey that you've been on, which involves restaurants, you know, speaking TED Talks, you know, like. Don't hit that squirrel. I know that was good.
It was close.
It was close. You know, the fact that you had all these community events and blogging and working for InsideEVs. I mean, we're just getting going here, and the amount of people that need help in this transition. You know, there's so many people that are going to help in their own way. Yeah. You go to a charging station. I would imagine you're probably one of the nicest guys at a charging station. Hey, can I help you out? Hey, you don't know how to do this.
Just like your son Kyle, always helping somebody at a DC fast.
Always do that. You know, you always
got
to take the temperature. Does someone want to help? Sometimes they don't, but you know, so we all as a community need to help each other. And Tom, what you've done, what's amazing about you is that you haven't just taken, like, you're not entering this at you know, in 2021 or 2020. You've lived this. And so when you give someone advice, or if you help someone make a decision, it's really worth listening to people that have experience, no matter what it is in life, right? And so that's what you bring to the table. So I encourage you to keep sharing, to keep educating, and I want to thank you tremendously for taking your time out of your day today to not only join me, but join my vast audience, which is growing. You know, hopefully with this video it'll grow even more. But you know, I really want to thank you, Tom, and I also want to thank everyone for, you know, listening to another episode of Out of Spec Dave. We'll catch you on the next one. And I'm driving around these roads. I don't think I'm going home to Connecticut. I like it here in New Jersey. Anyway, folks, take care. Have a good day.
Bye now.